Have you ever wondered why, if the aliens that we see in our skies want to send us a message, they don't just send us a message? Hi, I'm Jim Lake. It's a curious fact that the behavior of UFOs is often completely inexplicable. For example, during the Cold War, the militaries of both the United States and the Soviet Union reported that their nuclear weapons facilities were compromised by UFOs. One such incident took place in Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967. While a UFO that was witnessed by numerous base personnel hovered over the top of the base, an entire flight of nuclear-armed missiles was deactivated, presumably by the aliens. A similar incident took place in the Soviet Union in October 1987 at Yuzovin in the Ukraine. In that incident, the Soviet missiles were apparently enabled, a process that required knowing the secret nuclear launch codes. Now, these incidents are not unique, and similar incidents in which the UFOs appeared to be directly involved in vandalizing nuclear weapons have been reported for over the last 40 years. One of the common possible motivations that commentators have offered for these activities is that the aliens are sending us a message. Presumably the message is something along the lines of, we can control your nuclear weapons, so you better not use them. If that's the message, they chose a vague and ambiguous, ineffective, and extremely risky way of sending it. Starting a nuclear war seems like a poor way to prevent one, at least to me. A more effective and much less risky way to send us a message might be to, well, send us a message in English or Russian, with a radio or a TV or even writing in the sky. Someone as smart as these aliens ought to be able to come up with a convincing mechanism. Such a message might say, your nuclear weapons are an unacceptable risk to us. We want them eliminated. In furtherance of that demand, we will demonstrate to you that we can control them. On such and such a date, at such and such a time, we'll deactivate all the missiles at such and such a base. When they followed through on that threat, they'd probably find that we were more than willing to have further discussions with them. Now, while that strategy seems like it might actually work, the actions that they did take, other than risking a nuclear war, did absolutely nothing at all. Nothing changed. The governments involved simply denied that the incidents ever happened, all of which is completely predictable to someone even remotely familiar with human nature. So, I wonder, why do they do such things over and over again? I don't believe that the aliens are fools that take huge risks on gambits that are unlikely to accomplish their goals. I mean, if that's true, then sending a message is not likely to be the aliens' intent. Unless the message is not intended for us. What if their audience is somebody else? Who might that be? Now, I think it's reasonable to assume that the aliens have a population of their own. The population might be on another planet, or it might be right here on this planet, under the oceans, or maybe under the crust. The aliens' actions make some sense if one assumes that they're showing a concerned populations that they can control our nuclear weapons. That doesn't explain why they would risk an unintended nuclear war to make a comforting demonstration for the home folks. A more likely explanation, in my opinion, is that our planet is merely a pawn in a metaphorical chess game that involves the whole galaxy. Evidence suggests that there are many different groups of aliens, all with their own, often conflicting agendas. Taking risks with us would not be of particular concern to an actor whose intent was showing a competitor that he could control us. As an example, we might casually wipe out a termite's nest just to show someone that we could control termites. Neither of us would lose sleep over the fate of the termites. I believe that it's reasonable to conclude that the aliens are in a constant state of conflict with one another. Now, you may accuse me of anthropomorphizing, but I think conflict on a galactic scale is an inevitable result of high technology. I've reached this conclusion because I've observed that complexity, in general, increases as technological complexity increases. In other words, higher technology does not make life simpler, it makes it more complex. For example, modern civilization faces all the same complexities that Roman civilization faced. War, politics, natural disasters. And in addition, modern civilization has to deal with computers, the internet, things like quantum mechanics. As complexity increases, so do the range of possibilities for conflict. In other words, it's more likely that two groups will experience conflict if they have 1,000 different things to argue about than if they have only 10 things. This problem can only increase as the technology becomes as complex as that possessed by the aliens. The anti-gravity drive, which the aliens appear to use, eliminates the problem posed by the vast distances between the stars. With it, vastly different groups with vastly different needs and goals will be in close proximity to one another. Close proximity means competition for resources, even if the only resources that really matter are space and energy, because those resources are limited to the areas around stars. Now, I don't necessarily equate conflict with warfare. Conflict results when competing groups have different goals. German military theorist Karl von Clausewitz proposed a definition of war as the continuation of politics by other means. And I would expand on that by simply observing that the politics are inevitable, but the open hostile warfare is not. The aliens may not engage in hostile, violent confrontation with one another. Well, if they do, there's no evidence visible to us. But I find it difficult to believe that their relationships with one another are always harmonious. Instead, the aliens may find it more convenient to use clients as the perpetrators of actions taken against the interest of their competitors. We, as a warlike and territorial species, would be prime fodder for recruitment in such a role. As a primitive species, we might be viewed as expendable, or easily bribed with offers of superior technology in return for service. I realize that this is all highly speculative, but I don't believe that the alien presence on our planet is speculative. There's plenty of evidence that they're here, and if they are, then they have an agenda. And it's in our interest to determine what that might be, even if it involves engaging in informed speculation. The purpose of this video, and others to follow, is to start a conversation about that alien agenda. We need to refine our simplistic explanations of why the aliens do what they do, because most of what we see them do doesn't make any sense. Since the aliens don't appear to have any interest in explaining their intentions, we need to follow the evidence we have and use logic and our own experience and observations to draw reasonable conclusions. This may be anthropomorphizing, but our experience in surviving and prospering on this planet does have relevance to the general question of what it takes to survive and prosper. Moreover, all species, no matter who they are, where they're from, face the problem of limited space and resources. Our experience in grappling with these limitations is also relevant, and it should guide us in concluding how others would do so. We need an open discussion about that, and I hope my contributions here will help bring that about. For now, thanks for your attention, and we'll continue this conversation.